Okay, episode 17 of Radio Espial. I'm Mick Rooney. I'm a journalist having a look at a missing person case for this episode. Few house rules, just a sort of discussion on format. I've decided for these episodes that I'm covering missing people, criminal cases. I I've I've listened to some of your comments. I appreciate them. Always respected, and I think you're right. I've taken on board. I think the formats for these episodes, where we're dealing with matters that are very sensitive like this, I think it's better if we just drop the format of music intros and music finishing. I would rather just get down to the subject matter. So if you think you've spotted something different about the format of this episode, you're right. Let's just focus on what needs to be focused on. Please, let's get rid of the basics at the moment. Wherever you're seeing this podcast or videocast, it's likely only going to be in videocast due to the nature of the subject matter. By all means, give it a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, by all means comment, but please be respectful in the comments. No rabbit holes, no highly speculative and wild comments that can be offensive or are just distracting. That's not what we do here. I've said it many times. For this episode, you'll remember that I did a timeline feature on the Trevor Deely case. I think that was just before Christmas, in late November, early December. This case, unlike the Trevor Deely case in Ireland, the Trevor Deely case is kind of an historic missing person case. The subject matter tonight is very much present. It is a missing person, and it is a missing person in Dublin from January. If you can help with this case, if you can provide any information, that's great. But by all means, let me know in the comments. But above all, if you have information on this case, or you think you know something that might be helpful, you need to talk to An Garda Síochána at the Irish Police. And by all means, do that first. Forget about me. Let me introduce you a little bit to this case. Again, we're going through the timeline. This is a case of a missing person, Bernadette Connolly. Okay. Now, I'm gonna have an insert with some CCTV footage as we go through this timeline. But as always with these timelines, I want to bring you up to date. There's probably, and I suspect, be hearing more about this case in recent days. And we'll go through that shortly. But first of all, I want to go through it chronologically. I'll have the CCTV insert. I've kind of decided it's better to build in the graphics and images that are necessary for you to look at within the timeline, rather than me switching out or switching over, have a look at an image for 10 seconds of silence, then I switch back. So we're going to do it here. Okay, let's just get to the case. This is an active case. Right now, this is an active case. As I speak, this morning, on February the 2nd, 2022, this is an active case. Bernadette Connolly has not been found. Whatever you might have heard in speculation or what in recent times, this is an active case. Let's go with this. 45-year-old Bernadette Connolly has been missing from the Swords area of Dublin since Friday, the 7th of January 2022. Now, I've put in brackets 12:38 p.m. That is the last known activity. We're going to talk a little bit about that shortly as we go through the timeline, but keep that in mind. Miss Connolly, who was last seen on Donabate Beach, is described as being 5 foot 6 inches, that's for 1.68 meters tall, of slim build with hazel eyes and long black hair. Gardaí, the Irish police, say that Bernadette was wearing a black Nike training top, black Nike leggings, and black trainers with a white sole and black woolly hat with a black bobble at the time she went missing. She was last seen on CCTV after she was dropped off by taxi at the car park of the Shoreline Hotel, Donabate, when she walked towards the entrance to Donabate Beach. She has been missing for more than 3 weeks. Gardaí are looking to speak with and identify anyone that may have been on Donabate Beach on Friday, the 7th of January from noon onwards. Now, I'm going to reference somebody in this timeline, and it's Jade, her daughter, who has been, you might have noticed recently, been quite prominent in the media and has done an incredible job of highlighting this case. As we've seen with an awful lot of cases, how much relatives have to work with the police and work with the media in highlighting the case and the concerns that they have. So this image that you're looking at is Bernadette Connolly, age 45, and the reason why this image is important is because this is believed to be, now this is not on the day, I want to stress that, but this is a favourite clothing that Bernadette wore, and it is believed that this is what she was wearing on the day. Now, at the time, it was different. It would have been a lot. This looks like it was taken kind of like nice weather, summertime, out without a jacket. We'll go through that. Bernadette was wearing this underneath her jacket and the bag that she carried, but this is what she was wearing beneath that. And you can see she's carrying, I think, what looks like a purse maybe, and her mobile phone. She's bringing her dog out, Gucci, for a walk. So very much a striking woman and a recognisable woman, if you would have seen her and be familiar with her. Now, getting into the timeline. The day of her disappearance. We're going to start with what we know. And as you know, I work on the basis of sticking to evidence, not pretending or surmising what may or may not have happened, or, yeah, well, people normally do this or do that. We're sticking to what we know. 11 a.m. January the 7th, 2022. This was a Friday. Okay? A Friday. It was a cold and damp day in Dublin. 5 degrees centigrade. For American friends, I can't immediately off the top of my head convert that, but yeah, it's chilly, very chilly. Damp day. There had been rain spells earlier that morning as well. Some blustery winds out by Dublin's coastline. Bernadette follows a regular routine. It strikes me from what her daughter has said that she was a woman of routine. She cooks breakfast for her elderly mother and father and did a little bit of house cleaning. Sometime around 11 a.m. she leaves the house and she heads into Swords town centre from Manor Park. I believe that's the area roughly that she lived in. I'm not giving specific addresses for privacy purposes. Um, but her home wasn't in Swords town centre. It was a little bit further away. We'll look at some of that on maps. She takes regular walking trips to the coast or nearby her home, walking her dog Gucci. I think looks to me like it's like a Yorkshire Terrier, white Yorkshire Terrier. She was very fond of and was very active out with. But on that day, January the 7th, she leaves Gucci at home. Now, these are CCTV footage of her. I believe this is her leaving her home, so that she must have had a camera installed, or possibly could have been the parents' home that she was at that morning. And you can see in the main photograph where she's reaching over and closing the gate after her. And you can see there she's walking out of the house and closing the gate. So again, it's critical timeline information that we actually have, because some of this stuff is so important, and in so many cases we don't have this. Now, this is a close-up. I'll move that down slightly so you can see it. So from the earlier photograph, that sunny day where she's out walking the dog, you can see what she was wearing underneath, as it were. But on this day, it wasn't a great day. You can see the black jacket she's wearing, and you can see this very distinctive, move my cursor over. You can see this very distinctive bag, quite a large bag, so, you know, it could have carried quite a number of items, zips here, you know. So, and of course the distinctive, so she's very choreographed, my goodness. You know, again, you can see this, I think it's the Nike symbol, you know, so Nike runners, the Nike top. So what happens then? So we're at 11 a.m. Sometime between 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. she takes a bus journey, a local bus journey from where she lives. There could be only two buses she could have taken where she was going, and that's the 41 or the 41C bus, and that takes her into the town centre. Okay, so it's not too far. It's not a big journey, but depending on the bus she took, because there are that 41 or 41C are slightly different routes, so it would vary. We're not certain on what route she actually took and which particular bus she was on. And I've yet to see CCTV footage that the Irish police on Gardaí Síochána have released regarding if they had captured her on the bus. But generally, the journey would have only taken about 8 to 13 minutes. It's not very long to the town centre. Now, I'll move that down so you can see it. So here we have Swords Manor Grove. Over here, where you see the AIB Bank, Fingal County Company, Main Street. Main Street, we know she was on Main Street sometime just before 11:30 a.m. that morning. So she got there safely, no problems. This I think this bus journey, I think one bus goes this way, the other bus takes a more greater route around. You technically could walk this 21 minutes, but like I said, this was a rainy, damp, miserable, chilly day, so she didn't walk it. She chose to take the bus instead. And anybody familiar with the area will also know this well-known shopping centre, the Swords Pavilion shopping centre. Now, this is what I've just showed you here. This is Swords Main Street. So she's got the bus to this area down here in the bottom left. Now, her intention is to go here, Donabate Beach, for a walk on the beach. Unfortunately, and Irish people will understand what I mean by this, transport infrastructure in Ireland is not always the greatest, and sometimes when you want to go from A to B, there isn't a direct place or a bus or a train to get there. You know, this, in essence, this was a slightly awkward place to get to. You could have got a bus part of the way, but you'd still have to walk an awful lot more of it. So Bernadette Connolly chose to get a taxi from Main Street. Actually, I'll come back to this map here, but let's stick with the 11:31 to 11:36 a.m. This is where she is spotted, so we know she was on Main Street Swords. CC footage identifies Bernadette in the Swords town centre on Main Street. It is now known that she got a taxi from the centre out to Donabate Beach. This is about a 20-minute drive at the time of the late morning. It isn't a journey you would attempt on foot, at least not necessarily that day, because it wasn't a particularly nice day, January the 7th. There is no point-to-point direct bus service between Swords Centre and Donabate. Bernadette arrives in a taxi at the Shoreline Hotel carpark next to Donabate Strand. She is captured at the Shoreline Hotel on 2 CCTV cameras, exiting the taxi and walking left out of the hotel grounds towards the Strand. The taxi driver in his Peugeot Patrol would later come forward January 14th and be identified and speak to Gardaí. He has been eliminated from their inquiries. I'm just going to show you the images here, and then what I'm going to do is and this is the, let's just go back to that. This is Bernadette here. She's walking. I believe this is this yellow structure. This is like a, it's like that common food van or food vehicle that gets towed to a location where they cook whatever takeaway food for you. And obviously this time of the year it was kind of locked up, not in service. And this is where you see Bernadette walking by after she's left the hotel car park. She passes behind this food van and she'll appear in the next photograph outside of it. Don't worry, I'm going to show the, I think it's about 45 minute second CCTV footage. And in fact, I think it's probably an appropriate time now, so we'll go to the CCTV footage. You can look at it, make your own conclusions. Again, try to avoid jumping into wild speculation. Just as an aside, before I forget, there is a reason why I put this image up, and this is Main Street, but this is actually Main Street to Malahide, and we'll talk more about this little jutting peninsula and Malahide. These are cut off, so this area here, Malahide Beach, and here the end of Donabate Beach, they are not connected. You can't walk across here, and that's why it's relevant. And what was interesting, and I'll talk about this later, a lot of Bernadette's walks tended more to be located in this area of Dublin if she wanted to go out to the beach for a walk. On the Malahide side and the Portmarnock side rather than up here in the Donabate side. So this was more common to traverse. But again, we'll talk about that later. So onto the CCTV footage. Let's do that. Okay, so 11:56, 11:58 is the time of that CCTV footage. So Bernadette arrives in a taxi at the Shoreline Hotel car park next to Donabate Strand. She's captured at the Shoreline Hotel on two CCTV cameras exiting the taxi and walking left, and that's what you've just witnessed there. Now, we'll probably talk about that. We can talk about the CCTV footage. I don't think there's anything that people have talked about. Was there something weird about the fact that she waved to the taxi driver as he left? The fact that I did speak that she seemed slightly hesitant and seemed a bit preoccupied. Um, I, I I'm always careful. Don't read more into something that isn't necessarily of relevance. I think she just was preoccupied, probably very lightly with her phone at the time, and stood away from the entrance exit to let the taxi driver drive out, because it doesn't look like an entrance exit that easily allows one car to go out and one car to come in at the same time. I think that's all that was happening. She was just standing out of the way of the taxi driver and just happened to casually wave as he departed. Now, last known movements, at least for now, 12:38 p.m. January the 27th. January the 7th. Bernadette is witnessed by several people on Donabate Strand walking south towards the Malahide end of the Donabate Bay area. I showed you that on the map. She takes a picture towards the end of the beach on her mobile phone at 12:38. So that's GPS located. Her phone will be later found. We'll talk about that shortly. And the photograph she took is looking across towards Malahide, so across that short. I don't know what distance that it looks to me on estimate from maps. It's maybe not very much. It's literally, if it's even a quarter of a kilometre, I'd say at most. This is her last mobile phone activity. So just on that trek, what you're looking at now is you're looking at an aerial photograph. Now, again, forget about the nature of the picture itself and doesn't it look a lovely, wonderful day. This isn't taken on the day. This is just a Google Maps aerial photograph. This area here, this is the car park of the Shoreline Hotel. I believe one CCTV camera looked out in this direction at that circular object you see at the entrance, and then another was looking more directly out, and actually right here where I have the cursor is where that yellow food van was parked. So the taxi comes in here down this Corballis Cottages Road, turns in, turns around here, stops. Bernadette gets out and begins sort of hesitantly walking across here, but she allows the taxi then to pass her. He reaches the exit and he turns and departs back in the direction he came from. Whereas on foot, Bernadette, and you see her walking over to the entrance, and you'll notice there are two what looks like elderly women, I think one in a dark jacket and one in a purple jacket, sort of come in the entrance and walk past her. There doesn't seem to be any exchange. They probably may not even remember it. Bernadette on foot exits, and she turns what would have been to her left and begins walking up this way, and then turns in here, and this is now effectively the road, the non-traffic road out to the beach strand and down here. And now she's basically out onto the strand. So further on, this is a larger, wider image. So you're looking at the same area where I showed you the Shoreline Hotel. So this is that bit of walkway down onto the strand. You're down onto the strand, and then this is your beach walk all the way down here. So it's quite a distance, you know, it's a decent old walk. What I want to point out to you, and this is why information is critical to be reported to the Irish police. We have a golf club here. We have another golf club here. Corballis Links Golf Club. And we have another golf club here. So this whole area that sort of rises up from the beach onto the dry land is full of dunes, grass, and then leads on to golf courses. Several golf courses, as you can see. So on that day, there were clearly people playing golf in these golf courses, and there were multiple people, just like Bernadette Connolly, walking along this beach, probably walking back this way, who were out earlier, like Bernadette Connolly walking this way. There's that peninsula again, and as you can see, you know, it pretty much ends here. You could walk across here, but that gets into a very difficult walk. It's not really meant to be. There are some pathways, but you're really struggling over, and particularly on a bad weather day, you're going to be struggling over terrain, and I'm pretty sure some of these golf courses are also fenced off as well, so you're not just going to be able to stroll across a golf club, but you may be witnessed by somebody on the 17th or 18th green putting a chip in and to the golf hole, and spots somebody like Bernadette on the day. Again, if you suspect so, come forward. And that's of course Malahide Beach across the waterway there. The only reference I want to make here is there is what's called a viaduct which links the Donabate area with the Malahide area, but you can only access that by train. So if you're on Donabate Beach, you'd have to go back to Donabate and go and find somewhere, a train station, to get on the train and then travel across the viaduct. I think there were plans 2 years ago to implement a cycle path and a walkway on that viaduct, but it is a train viaduct. It's not a pedestrian walkway, it's not a cycle walkway at the moment, so you can't just, you know, walk across or walk over. So if you walk down Donabate Beach and you get to here, that's pretty much, you ain't going nowhere. You've got water all around you, and there are no accessible points to get across to Malahide. You would effectively have to walk all the way back to the Shoreline Hotel, the entry point, and you would literally have to walk all the way back, all the way around the peninsula and bay. And just for perspective and timing, walking it would take you 2 hours and 46 minutes. Now, I'm sure you cut that down with picking up a bus here and there. You could, of course, drive, but you can see that how incredibly close both areas are, and you'll see a picture of this. But yet, practically, it's some journey to get there. Now, I just make that for mention, and here we go. That's the area. That's Malahide Beach over here. This is Donabate Beach. It doesn't look very far, but this does get quite deep here, and particularly at this time of the year. This isn't something you just potter across or go for a swim and get across. This is quite deep in the centre. I think in summer times it can dry out completely where it's potentially accessible, but remember, this is January, this ain't July. This is the location where this ex is that they believe Bernadette took that photograph looking across at Malahide Bay across the way. So you can see it here now overhead, the white X here. That's her last known position. And that came via a phone we're going to talk about now very shortly. So the afternoon of January the 7th, Bernadette's daughter, Jade Connolly, is contacted at work and informed that her mother has not come home and appears to be missing. Jane and her grandparents have not heard from Bernadette all day and late into the evening. They believe something is seriously wrong and contact Gardaí. Now, we jump 4 days later. Now remember, you go in, you report a missing person. Unless there's strong reason to believe something is untoward, it can take 24 to 48 hours before the guards will take that seriously, or that something definitely isn't right here. And this is one of the most frustrating things for relatives of somebody where they know something isn't right. You know, mom or the brother or the son didn't come home, something's not right here. They report to the guards and they say, well, you sure they're not at a friend's house? You sure they didn't stay over somewhere? And that can be a very frustrating thing for relatives. So January the 10th to the 11th, following more than 48 hours of Bernadette's disappearance, Gardaí escalate the case and begin to contact media for assistance in a missing person case of concern. Now, when I first read this initial Garda PR press release and the start really of the media coverage, despite people trying to pretend that and tell me that there wasn't media coverage of it, there feckin' was media coverage of it as early as the evening of the 9th, 10th of January. It was clear the investigation team believed that there was more to this case than someone just disappearing of their own free will. We move on to January the 15th to the 16th. The excuse me. The public report sightings of Bernadette in Glasnevin, Dublin, and counties Wicklow and Wexford. None of these sightings lead to anything of substance. This is a regular pattern with missing people. Every lead has to be checked up, but often leads end in, well, effectively a dead end, and nothing can be found or substantiated on CCTV or with other witnesses. One person can look like another person, and somebody can hear about a case and think, oh, I think I saw them. Every lead has to be checked up, but often leads like this don't work out and don't end up with any substance. Gardaí, on the 16th of January, Gardaí make a second appeal for the public to come forward with information about Bernadette's last movements. They want a taxi driver of a blue-green Peugeot partner to come forward. That's the taxi obviously you saw on the image, and that's that taxi here. So the taxi driver hadn't come forward at this stage on the second major appeal. Now, I don't read anything into that. I've, as I just touched upon, I've heard so many people say Bernadette Connolly? And this will be even as recent as a week ago. I've heard no media coverage on that case. Well, there was, sorry. So I don't read anything into the fact that this taxi driver was oblivious to the fact that he brought a woman to the Shoreline car park on January the 7th and she went missing, and it's been reported in the media, but he's oblivious to it. This guy probably meets hundreds of people per day in his taxi. January the 18th, following media attention, the driver of the Peugeot partner taxi that dropped Bernadette off at the Shoreline Hotel comes forward. He recalls the trip but can only recall limited details of their conversation. He picked up Bernadette in Sword Centre, we know that, and drove her to Donabate Beach. She was specific about being taken to the Shoreline Hotel car park, although, and we're not sure about this, although there seems to be a little degree of uncertainty about the hotel name, but that it was close to the Strand entrance. That is, that maybe Bernadette didn't know the specifics of the hotel or referred to it by a different name. He asked her on arrival if she worked at the hotel, and she said no, that she was there to meet a friend. The fact Bernadette told the taxi driver that she was there to meet a friend does not necessarily mean she actually was there for that purpose. She may simply have just provided a polite answer. You know, I've been in taxis and I've been asked, you know, oh, what are you doing here, or why are you out here? And I wouldn't necessarily give the accurate information as to why I'm there. I might be going for a job interview, I'm meeting a family friend, or I'm just out for no reason at all, out for a walk. Mid-January, at some unknown date, sometime in mid-January, a significant find is discovered on Donabate Beach, high up from the shoreline on dry land. 2 items are identified as Bernadette's coat and handbag. A man walking Donabate Beach discovered the items. He immediately reported it to Gardaí. The coat and bag are located several hundred metres back up the beach from where Bernadette took her last photograph with her phone. So that's that 12:38 photograph looking across at Malahide Beach. I think several hundred metres back up that beach is where the coat and bag were found. They were not found down at the shoreline, in the wet shoreline. They were found well up onto dry land, clear, dry, grassy land. Now the phone. So where do we get this 12:38 and photographs and stuff? In one pocket of Bernadette's jacket, a phone is found. This is a critical piece of forensic evidence. Gardaí have not released all the evidence they have found on the phone, including text messages, correspondence, and GPS movements. What they have released is confirmation that the last photograph Bernadette took on January the 7th, the day she disappeared, is a photo of Malahide Beach in the distance at 12:38 p.m. Now, late in January, as with all investigations, it's clear that the Gardaí are only providing limited information, and a third appeal is made from information from the public. Again, I got tired of hearing this on places like Facebook, the Journal. I haven't heard of this case. Well, try and pay attention. Stop being trapped in your own world. You know, this case was covered and has significantly been covered on a regular basis since the 10th of January. Recently, Bernadette's daughter has also revealed that her mother may have been carrying a pink towel in her bag, possibly to go paddling in the water. Now, I don't know the relevance of this, and it still doesn't seem to be certain, but it's been now referenced quite a number of times by her daughter Jade, and also by that crime call piece done on Monday evening past. We'll talk about that shortly, but I'm pretty sure the Gardaí would not have allowed or released that information without reason. So there's something in that, and I don't quite know what it is, and the Gardaí are not releasing information on that, but other than they believe it's possible that maybe a pink towel from the house was missing. Maybe it was contained in that black bag he saw. They found Bernadette's black bag. Question, and we'll ask questions down below. Is it that the pink towel wasn't in the black bag? Believed that she did bring it with her, maybe to go paddling or whatever, but it wasn't in the bag when the bag was found. So where is it? The first thing I want to say about this next piece is it's January the 27th, Lambe Island, and the find of a body. I thought long and hard about whether I should include this in the timeline, but I decided to include it. One of the reasons I decided to include it was not necessarily because I believed that it was connected, but unfortunately we've too many clowns on social media who want to assume and speculate and try and connect things that are not connected. And that's what we have to deal with every day. People speculate. They jump to conclusions. And I've got to outline reasons why we shouldn't jump to conclusions in this piece. Because there are people who are not aware of other details around this Lambe private island and just jump to conclusions automatically. A lot of this was investigated by the Gardaí over the last week. I intended putting this episode out last Thursday, Friday, but when this broke, I thought I have to hang on, because this may not end up being a missing person case. And I had to research some of the details behind this, and that was liaising with people involved in the case. I'm not going to go further than that. So, January the 27th, Lambe Island, body find. Late on Thursday evening, January the 27th, a workman on Lambe Island discovers a body washed ashore on the strand. Lambe Island is located 4 kilometres off the coast of North Dublin, with a population of less than 8 people most times of the year. Gardaí at Balbriggan Station, Dublin on the mainland are notified, and overnight a forensic team is dispatched. The body is recovered and removed for post-mortem and DNA analysis by Forensic Science Ireland. I've heard of Forensic Science Ireland mentioned in a lot of cases, and that kind of triggered to me, are we actually dealing with a body here that's recently been in the water? Or are we dealing with something more historic here, and that the remains are considerably decomposed? The discovery of the unidentified body on the Lambe Island coastline is not made public until Saturday morning, January the 29th. I can kind of understand why it wasn't made public until January the 29th. And it's partly because people speculate. And the Gardaí wanted to be certain of what they were dealing with, first of all. Gardaí notify several families of missing persons from the Dublin area of the discovery of human remains on Lambe Island. I believe there were anything up to 6 families who were notified, who had current missing people or open cases where their loved ones hadn't been found. I have no doubt the Connolly family were one of those families, but unfortunately, again, speculation, everybody jumps to conclusions and forget there's a lot of other families who also have missing people. However, it is important to stress that this is not the first human remains, a skull, have been found on or off the coast of Lambe Island, and this is over a number of years. Historically, Irish and Spanish police are still investigating the case of fugitive murderer Antonio Angelis, who fled to Ireland in 1993. It is believed to be part of his it is believed that part of his remains were discovered by fishermen at this location off Lambe Island in their fishing nets in 2006. So this place is no sort of rarity for human remains being found. As far back as 2006, human remains had been found there. A skull. So historically, when Gardaí are investigating cases, they're looking at it. They're looking at missing people. They're going, hang on a second, wasn't there that Spanish guy who fled from the authorities in Spain over here in 92, 93? Possibly is he the guy who jumped off the ship and went missing, drowned and went missing? Is this part, maybe, could this be part of his remains? And people were speculating online, oh, it must be the body of a woman, it must be this, or it must be connected to that case. Unfortunately, people go missing, and the family of Bernadette Connolly are not the only missing case in Dublin. The timing of Bernadette's disappearance may be entirely coincidental with this latest find of human remains. It is important not to speculate and always wait for a formal identification. Unfortunately, this was not always the case with the vagaries of social media. Just for the record, this is just an image of Lambe Island. Now, this looks huge here in my image, but I think if I go with the cursor from here, right across diagonally from here, I think it's only something like 2.5 kilometers or 2.7 kilometers and roughly 2 kilometers top to bottom. So it's not a very big island, but it is a private island, and there are not many people who live here who reside on it, and it varies over and I think you can at certain times of the year go there for like tourist visits, but there's an awful lot of fauna in this area. I think they even have wallabies on this island, believe it or not. And so it's a very protected area, and they don't allow a high amount of traffic here. Most of the people on this island actually are either involved with the family who own the island, or they're involved in farming and tourism on the island. And there's literally sometimes as low as 4 or 5 people on the island at one time. At its peak, sometimes with tourist guys, there might be up to 12 people on the island. January the 28th, Gardaí make a fresh appeal to the public and release CC footage of the Shoreline Hotel in Donabate. You've already seen that. January the 31st, this is a couple of days ago on Monday, RT's monthly programme Crime Line released the 4th burst of public requests for information on the case. The pink tail item is once again raised. No information is released in the crime call. No new information is released in the crime call program. I have to say, I did watch it. I think, could be wrong, maybe 5 or 6 minute segment. I was kind of a bit disappointed that more could not have been. Remember, I was working on this timeline since last week, so I knew things that I've disclosed here, and I was just a little bit disappointed that there wasn't more information released in it. It was quite limited, really, around the CCTV footage, her beach walk, and really the mention of the towel, but not a great deal more than that. And certainly Gardaí weren't given any indication of what they believed or didn't believe may have occurred. Now, the reason why I finally decided tonight I could finally go with releasing this timeline is because I was waiting, and I did get a tip off late Sunday that something may have been happening or about to be disclosed, which is why I thought maybe it's going to happen on the the crime call program. As it were, it didn't, and I thought, look, will I just go with the program? And then I thought, if this body on Lambe Island does turn out to be Bernadette, well, that's it. Like, effectively, it isn't a missing case anymore, and it's up to the Gardaí then to resolve how did this happen or what occurred. I'm thankful that I hung on, because The evening of February the 1st, that proper news then broke. During the following 24 hours after the crime call programme, several reports are made to Gardaí of sightings of Bernadette in the Ballymun, Dublin area. This is just quick aside. I'm not really convinced necessarily of these sightings. I talked earlier that, you know, sometimes you can see somebody who looks like somebody else and report it, and that's good. That's a positive thing that people are prepared to report it. But I'm always wary of these kind of sightings. I'm not convinced how much weight to put on these sightings, because as you remember in the timeline, apparently she was in Wicklow. Apparently she was in, was it Finglas, Glasnevin area? Apparently she was in, I think, Wexford. You know, so all over the place. So I'm not inclined until there's substantive information to back sightings up that they are definitely of Bernadette. Now, sadly for another family, on the evening of February the 1st, the Garda Press Office confirmed that the body found on the shore of Lambe Island on Thursday, January the 27th, last week, is the remains of another missing woman, that of Elizabeth Redmond. Elizabeth, age 52, went missing from her home in Artane, Dublin on December the 12th, and that's just literally December the 12th gone by. The identification was made through DNA testing, and the search for her has now been stood down. I know they did put out an alert initially by Gardaí after she went missing in December, and it's always that classic code word or signs in a Garda press release where we are concerned about the welfare of this person. I'm not going to go into it here, but for journalists, they are key words for us. We kind of understand what's meant. This is a different case. Tragic for Elizabeth Redmond's family tonight and in the coming days. If some answers and resolution is any help, God love them. But, you know, it's a different case. Okay, that matter is now being resolved. The body found on Lambe Island. As I said, I mentioned it because I thought there could be a strong possibility that it was connected with the Bernadette Connolly case. As it's turned out, it's tragically connected to another woman from a different family, and God love them. As I say, I mentioned it because there was so much annoying speculation on social media. Now I want to give you some early observations. I've covered enough cases to conclude that the Irish Gardaí have strong reason and point in this case that it's gone beyond just a missing person, and that they must have significant grounds and evidence already to indicate that a nefarious element can or cannot be ruled out. It's not certain yet, but that remains a line of possibility. Why? Her coastal walking was often to the south, Malahide and Portmarnock. Not that she hadn't previously walked in Donabate, but more often it was on the Malahide and Portmarnock side. So why did she choose on what would have been a very difficult and blustery and, you know, tricky day? Why did she decide to go the Donabate side? And why a route that would have meant she had to get a taxi to Donabate? Remember, she didn't bring her dog. She said she travelled by taxi, again, to somewhere more awkward to get to. So if there was a specific purpose for Bernadette's trip to Donabate, such as a meeting with a friend, someone else. Remember what she told the taxi driver, or what he recounted. You can bet the Gardaí already know this. Remember, they've got her phone. And having secured that phone, they probably know more than we do. In general, from Jade, her daughter, and speaking about her mother, she was in good form that day. There appears to be no necessary mental health issues that can be prevalent in other cases where people go missing. Investigating officers of the Gardaí are fully aware now of all her phone activity that day and leading up to that day. She did not go there casually for a walk. That's supposition, in fairness on my part. I'm certainly not convinced she went there just for a casual walk. I think it's more likely she went there. She was being honest with the taxi driver. She did go there to meet somebody, and or there was some other alternative purpose which is unknown to us. While difficult to make out, Bernadette appears preoccupied on that CCTV footage when she exits the taxi, and it does look to me like the behaviour and the movements of somebody on a mobile phone. You know, where you've got the mobile phone in front of you, you're looking down, and you sort of don't want to walk into a wall or walk in front of a car or something, but you're pausing and you're stopping and that's at least what it looks like to me. Is that the kind of thing you would do when you arrive in a place, get out of a taxi, and you're rendezvousing with somebody, a friend, you're meeting up in a coffee shop or somewhere? Oh, I'm here now, I've just arrived. Is that what was going on? We don't know. Only the Gardaí know that, and I'm sure they've checked the logs on those calls. They have the phone, so it's not like they just have to rely on telecom logs. They actually have the phone with any messages, call logs that were on it. Now, the other thing is, you don't cast off your bag and jacket on a winter's day, remember 5 degrees, to deliberately just go missing on purpose. Why would you take off your jacket and bag? It's more likely that Bernadette's coat and bag were deposited on that grassy dry dune after she took the photograph at 12:38 p.m. So did that happen when she was walking back? Did something occur to make her take her jacket and bag off? Did she maybe on the way back thought, oh, have me tell me, I'll go in for a paddle now before I go? Is that all it was? Did she meet somebody? Did she start casually chatting to somebody? Did something more untoward happen that led to those circumstances of her jacket being off and her not carrying her bag? Would you leave your jacket and bag unattended? I don't know. Maybe some people do. Maybe they don't. If Bernadette's bag, jacket, and phone were found on Donabate Beach, where is she? Did she ever, and this is the big question, did she ever leave the beach after 12:38 p.m. on January the 7th? And again, as I said, why would she leave her coat and bag unattended on a public beach? Wouldn't have been the most comfortable thing to do. If she did leave Donabate Beach after 12:38 p.m, either back via the Shoreline Hotel, it's the most logical place you would go, the most easily accessible point to come back off the beach, or where the entrance and exit is, or did she attempt in some manner of speaking to head up the sand dunes past 4 golf clubs with the sort of makeshift pathways? Then, if that's the case, why is there no additional witness reports and CCTV footage of her that day around Donabate, and specifically the Corballis Road? We've great TV footage of her arriving. If she left that beach, where the hell's the CCTV footage of her going back? She still would have had to get out onto Corballis Road. Why didn't other people see her on the beach? Well, I believe there were one or two people that did report believing that they seen her on the beach. But why isn't there more? And if she left that beach and something happened to her, she went somewhere post 12:38 p.m. Why don't we have CCTV footage of that? Did Bernadette go for a paddle? Or did she fully enter the water after 12:38 p.m.? Did she get into distress? Did something happen? I don't know. Where's her pink towel? Was it recovered in that bag? Doesn't look like it. Where's her black bobble hat? She carried that day. Found the bag. Found a coat. So where's the hat? Where'd that go? And as we now know, in clarification of the other case with Miss Redmond, no coastal sea search ever turned up her body over more than 3 weeks. And there's been no, and this is my understanding from Garda Síochána, there has been no personal activity on her banking accounts or cards since January the 7th. The fact that Bernadette's personal items were later found on the beach where she was last seen is not consistent with somebody who deliberately wants to run away or go missing, like off the grid. People who do that usually make careful and secretive preparations for their new life. The circumstances and current available evidence are also not consistent with any random assault or unplanned abduction. There's no body, no indications that a crime occurred on that beach, and no eyewitnesses to anything untoward that may have happened. So in the words of that Sergeant Detective on Crime Call on Monday night, this is a very puzzling case. Something doesn't add up here. It doesn't seem to be one or the other. Again, I would ask you to be respectful in comments. Try to avoid getting into wild speculations, making ridiculous claims. If you like this video, give it a like. Give us a subscribe. I'm always trying to build up the channel with new subscribers. We'll be doing other cases like this. I'm hoping we're going to have an interview next week on writing and publishing. But for now, on this case, you've got a daughter, Jade. You've got Bernadette Connolly's family who are worried sick as to where their mother is, missing after 3 weeks. Her daughter has done an incredible job to highlight this case, but please don't underestimate what the Garda are doing in the background and behind it. She has a Garda liaison officer working with her. Now, if you have information or think you saw something or have recognized Bernadette Connolly somewhere, by all means contact Garda Síochána with the numbers I'm going to read out here. And by all means, of course, let Jade know on social media. But please stop using her as a conduit. Stop using her solely as a passer of information. It's not her role to contact the Gardaí on your behalf. If you've got information, go to the Gardaí first. By all means, let Jade know. But she's not a conduit in between you and the Gardaí, because I don't want to talk to the guards. I'm not sure. Go to the guards and give the information if you believe you have information. They're continuing to appeal for information on Bernadette's whereabouts. Speak in person with them. And you can contact them at Swords Garda Station 01666 4700, or you can contact them on a Garda confidential line if you want, if that's your preference. Fine. 1-800 666 111. Let's hope there can be resolution for this family, and most importantly, Bernadette Connolly is found safe and sound. I will probably see you next week, or the later end of next week, with an interview in the field of writing and publishing, and we'll have plenty more of these missing cases, true crime stuff. Okay? Take care. God bless.